Okay, welcome back to the Bishy P podcast. Today we've got an absolute cracker of a guest, and we're delighted to say we're joined by Katie Archibald. Hello, Katie.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Katie, of course, is a Great British cyclist, current Olympic gold medalist, and we're also joined by Mr. McHugh. Hello, Mr. McHugh.
Evening, how are we? All right?
Yes, very well. Glad to be back at work.
Well, maybe Friday tomorrow.
Indeed. In other news, we're joined by current advanced hire candidate and active skills captain, Eve McFadden. Hello, Eve.
Hi.
It's a very, very swanky couch you've got there. Looks nice. Mr. Johnson has had a baby this week, so massive congratulations to Mr. Johnson, who would usually be with us.
Yeah.
So just a wee shout out for him. So I'll kick us off today, and I'll start off question number one. Katie, what have you been up to recently in terms of lockdown? How's it been for you?
Yeah, how's it been? So I have just travelled down to Manchester last week. I don't know if you saw in the news, there are all the headlines saying, whatever you do, don't come to Manchester. Stay away,
right.
Please. So I'm staying just a little bit outside of Manchester, place in Cheshire, but this is where the national programme's based down here. So
yeah.
It was kind of in the diary that the National Cycling Centre is operational again. It's all very it's all social distance. It's only us that's in there. It's quite it's a really bizarre experience, but that's that kind of feels a little bit for me like a big step out of lockdown. I know that you're talking yourselves about going back to work and so on. I know the kids will be thinking about going back to school, and it's all these firsts are happening now, so it's quite fun.
Rumour has it you've had a few jigsaw puzzles, Katie. Is that right?
Only one was enough to crack me. I got in the same trend as everybody else, but it took so long to arrive. And then it turns up fully formed, and I had to go through the process of breaking the jigsaw to pieces before I could even begin. And that really was a mental blow. Is what it was. I'm not one for. Actually, I am one for sitting in the house all day. I'm just not one for sitting in the house doing jigsaw puzzles. I tried. It's not for me.
Right.
Excellent. So, Katie, I'm going to go into your school career now. So, can you tell us a wee bit about your school career, kind of primary school and secondary school?
Yeah, okay. So I suppose from a sporting context, when I was in primary school, I was a swimmer. So that was really the dominant sport of my childhood. Everyone's favorite thing about swimming is that to get the pool time, we go in before school and after school. So it wouldn't be uncommon that I'd be training in the morning, 6 till 7:30 actually. Oh Jesus, did we really get up that early? 6 till 7:30. Off to school, and it wouldn't. Yeah, as I say, it wouldn't be uncommon to then on that same day be coming back out for a session in the evening. And to be honest, it was probably more through senior school that really ramped up. When I was in primary school, I was doing a bit of everything. Like I tried, I did gymnastics, trampolining, bit of ballet when I was really young. I started playing hockey, started playing at the Western Wildcats, they're based around, do you know where that is?
Yeah, Mulgai.
So I grew up in Mulgai. And just really a bit of everything apart from, schoolwork also. I was going to say everything apart from schoolwork. Schoolwork also.
Important, Katie, isn't it?
Say that again, sorry.
Saying it's just a wee bit important to schoolwork.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was the stupid part not to hear. It's very important. It's very important. I think when you're a kid, these things, they all sort of taught along with each other. And I don't think I ever spent much time reflecting on what I was spending my time doing. You just sort of, you get dropped off places by your mum and don't think twice.
Yeah. Did you stay on till 5th year, 6th year, or did you leave earlier than that?
Yeah, so no, I stayed on, I did 6th year, so I went to Glasgow Academy for my senior school. I stayed there until 5th year, and then I did my 6th year at Douglas Academy, so that's back home in Mulgai. And
Perfect.
yeah, I ended up by my final year at school, so I funneled into languages by the time that I guess by the time that I knew what I wanted to do, which was really only just by the time that I was picking my subjects in sixth year. But clearly it's not what I'm doing now, so I don't know exactly what that says. But yeah, by the time I was in sixth year, I had taken French, Spanish, English, and Latin, all at different levels. So like Latin was a new one. I really wish I hadn't brought that up because I don't know anything about Latin now. But I did advanced French, advanced English, and I crashed higher Spanish, because that was what I wanted to do at university. I wanted to do languages.
Yeah.
How did you find the balance of your training at that point, obviously with the school work?
Yeah, so I hear stories from my teammates of the stresses that they were going through and the amount of schoolwork that they missed. Or the early morning sessions and things like that. But I wasn't as serious as my now peers when I was at school. So like I said, when I was younger, I was a swimmer, but you find that there's this massive dropout of girls in sport between about 13 and 15. It's something like a third more girls than boys stop playing sport when they turn 13. I can't actually quote where I know that from, but vaguely that's the notion, and I'm sure it's something you're familiar with. But yeah, I was no different. So I was really serious about swimming. When I was 15, I stopped. I quit entirely. I'd been sort of petering out. I kept playing hockey, and my bike was my means of travel, really. It was my means of travel, and it was something that I did with my family. My dad was really into cycling. We went on cycling holidays. We would have trips at the weekend, that kind of stuff. But it wasn't a competitive outlet for me, really, until I started racing when I was 16, and I started really racing every weekend when I was 17.
Yeah.
But it meant that through that sort of teenage period, I was doing what every other teenager was doing, of stressing about my social life, what I looked like, that sounds inane, but it took up a lot. It took up a lot of my time. And so, yeah, so that same juggle that I see, or that I hear from, like I say, like my teammates now, I wasn't as conscious of, I don't think. I probably was, in a way that I'm not proud of, I probably was prioritizing my social life above my both my sort of competitive outlets and my academic outlets. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Good. Yeah. See when you're at school, Katie, was there a favourite subject? Obviously, we're expecting you to say PE here. But did you have a particularly favourite subject? And was there anybody at school that was a kind of particular role model for you?
You won't take it personal if I don't. I did standard grade PE. I never took it to higher.
Back in the olden days, back in the standard grade days.
Oh, of course, yeah, back in the standard grade days. My favourite subject was English, really, and that's what I wanted. So I sort of mentioned that I wanted to do languages if I went to university, or the place I had at university was studying languages. But I never felt that. I just didn't think I was smart enough to take English to a higher level.
Yeah.
I like to write, I love to read, and I think just the peer group that I was friendly with by the time that it came to applying to universities and so on. Well, my closest friend ended up going to Cambridge University to study English literature and left with an A star or something like that. And so this was the person I was comparing myself to, of going like, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. And that's kind of how I fell on a more practical outlet, thinking, like languages take you places. There's loads of careers that having a language degree opens doors for. And that's how I settled there. But my passion was always with writing.
Right, excellent.
Yeah.
Mr. McHugh.
Yeah, sorry. See, when you obviously mentioned that you were at school and perhaps maybe college or university, did you have any part-time jobs at that point that maybe sort of helped you in your current career?
Yeah. So when I was younger, it was in the summer times. I'd work in my family business, but my family business, the family business, not my business. But the only part-time job I had when I was actually still at school, I didn't get until I was in sixth year, and when I had so much more time. So I was a bikeability instructor.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I volunteered at a place which was at the time called the Bike Shed. It's now called Bike for Good. So they're a charity that take in bike parts and run what they used to call BYOB, which is bring your own bike. These sort of tutorial mechanic lessons, and basically to just try and make cycling more accessible by giving more people affordable bikes and empower people to be more confident in fixing their own bikes, again, to make it more affordable.
Yeah.
So I volunteered there, but they also they trained me as a bikeability instructor, and so that was my part-time job. It was funny because a lot of my friends, like from when I was a swimmer, the classic one was that they'd go and become lifeguards, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's funny, the hobbies I suppose you get into as a kid, eventually you start going like, how can I make money out of this? So where can I get the cash with this skill set that I've got? So yeah, I think the work that I did in the family business, so that's it's a bed shop. People always mishear me and think I'm saying bike shop because it would make more sense, but beds and bedroom furniture.
Katie, I'd been told that your family have got a bed shop. I'm currently moving house. Mr. McHugh notice is coming here. I'm currently moving house, so I've got a couple of rooms needing some beds. So if I speak nicely to you, we get a wee discount in there.
Oh, for sure. It's Archer Sleep Centre. That's the name of the shop.
Excellent.
There we go.
I don't know where your closest would be, but there's quite a few. We've got I think it's nine shops in the central belt of Scotland.
There we go.
There's also a website. I didn't know the door would open so wide for a plug for Archer Sleep Centre.
Sorting, Mr. McHugh.
Just the interest, Eve. Have you got a part-time job now you're in sixth year?
No, I've not got one yet because last year was so busy as well.
Oh, right.
Right.
Katie's telling us she had a part-time job. You maybe need to take a leaf at her book.
Oh, that's a misquote if ever I've heard one.
Obviously, before Eve asks our first question on your professional career, could you tell us how your journey sort of into cycling and how that came about?
Yeah, so right, brief version. So I am a track cyclist. I am, for all intents and purposes, so I'm a track cyclist that's funded by national lottery players. So the UK sport programme is entirely funded by national lottery players. So if you buy a lottery ticket, you are the person that funds the Olympic team. Yeah. I've also been a professional cyclist on the road, and that's more of a sort of commercial setup, and yes, sponsor driven and so on. So, but my entry was through British Cycling and UK Sport, and that's kind of how I ended up going full time as a cyclist, and that happened when I was 19 years old, and that's how I ended up gravitating to Manchester, where the National Cycling Centre is. But I guess the important part, I don't really know why I started there, but the important part is how I actually got into it was racing the Highland Games, so grass track racing, and so it's not incredibly similar to the racing that you'll experience on a velodrome, but it is on a fixed gear bike. And the key, I think, for me is that it's handicapped races. My dad was a runner, and so that's how he was familiar with the scene and how he'd ended up saying, some of these Highland Games, they've got bike races on as well. Mulgai and Bersden Highland Games doesn't, which has always made me sad. But loads of Highland Games have bike racing. But it meant I was turning up as a teenage girl racing against loads of middle-aged men, but getting a big head start, and actually ending up winning some of these races, which meant really I got this taste for what it was like to win, unfairly, cheating in some senses, but it definitely kind of gave me that bug to take it to the next level. And I didn't didn't do anything near as much winning in the years that followed that. But yeah, I ended up having my break, as it were, at junior nationals, which was one of the rare occasions where I was racing against people my own age. And again, one of the rare occasions where I got to realize, like, oh, I'm maybe pretty good at this. And yeah, it snowballed from there.
Excellent. Now, Eva's got a few questions here, and she's quite nervous, right? But I'm sure she'll do a smashing job.
So my first question is, what is the best part about being involved in cycling?
Yeah, I'm nervous too, by the way. I'm not, I never feel super confident for these interviews. Yeah, the best part about being a cyclist, the best part about being into cycling for me is that I love the speed of the racing and I love the tactics of the racing. Being a track cyclist is just the pinnacle for me. Road cycling is more popular, really, just more people watch road cycling. People are into the Tour de France, as it were. But just the nuances that go into a track race really just make the whole sport for me. More broadly, though, about being a cyclist, what's good is that it's such a social sport. Yeah. I think it sticks in my head more because, like I say, when I was a kid and I was swimming all the time, the most social part is when you showers afterwards. You spend like an hour and a half with your head in the water, and then your mum gets mad at you because you've spent an hour and a half in the showers as well. But you go out on a bike ride, and what's common in group rides is that we'll go and there'll be, say there's 6 of you out, and we'll ride in pairs, and every 10 minutes, maybe every 20 minutes, you'll move up the line. And so you sort of joke about, you go out for a group ride and it's like speed dating, because you're having these little mini conversations as you go. Yeah. And it's just such a social sport. I love it.
One of the things I'm interested in, Katie, if you don't mind me asking, is how quick, like, are they actually going? See, when you're out on the road, like, how fast are you actually going on the bike?
Out on the road is a far different country. There's actually just recently been a really horrific crash in the Tour of Poland.
I've seen it on the TV.
Yeah. Oh, did you see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so that's an example of seriously high speeds, because they've got a sprint finish on a slight downhill on a really straight line. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the top speed there would have been about 70 kilometers per hour.
Wow.
Yeah, so and that's kind of similar speeds that we'll hit in the velodrome. But the most simple explanation is, so our Olympic event is a team pursuit. We travel 4 kilometers as fast as we can. Our world record time is 4 minutes 10, and that works out. The top speed that we'd hit is about 60 kilometers per hour. Our average is around 55, which comes with a dead start. So it's all pretty fast.
No.
That's very fast. It's about as fast as my son McHugh's old Peugeot.
Anyway, Eve, next question.
Right, what has your career journey been like?
It's funny because literally every one of my teammates will sit down and they'll tell you a story, and they'll go, I've had a path like no other. You know, you wouldn't believe either the setbacks or the struggles, and they'll tell you about somebody that told them they couldn't do it and now they've proved them wrong. And I've reflected on it quite a lot, because these are genuine stories, and they are all unique paths. And I don't know whether it proves that you have to be pushed back in order to excel, or whether it proves that there is no one way to do something. So my version was I wasn't in the British Cycling Development Programs. So British Cycling is a really well developed national governing body. They have Olympic programs that start from when you're under 14, and a lot of my teammates have gone through this entire program, and I didn't really get on the radar until like I say, I had this junior result as an 18-year-old, and it was a year later I did get onto the program. So it's by no means a incredibly alternative path. But yeah, I mean, the support that I have had, the I guess the grassroots and the amount that depends on volunteers in sport does make me do a double take to think there's just no way I would have had these opportunities if I hadn't met, for example, his name won't mean anything, but somebody called Alistair Watson was the first person to show me the ropes, as it were, at Meadowbank Velodrome in Edinburgh. Callum Watson, his son, just coached me for fun. I think about what I would have been doing when I was, so he was say 4 years older than me, and just doing it out of the interest that he had in the sport. And we've just had this conversation about how busy you are when you're at school and your teachers are telling you to get part-time jobs and like all these things going on. And like, that's somebody that took the time out of their day to help me excel at my sport. And I wouldn't have done it without them. So the journey just involved a lot of luck and a lot of help and a lot of people nudging me in the right direction until you get spotted by the right people, really.
I think it's back to myself now, Katie. We could be here all night or all day talking about your successes in your career, but if you were to pick kind of particular highlights of your career so far, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a question I've been asked before, and it feels really tempting to say something alternative and to be like, you know what, it was just one random race in Colombia where everything went wrong and we saved the day. But it wasn't. My career highlights the Olympic Games. I mean, we left with a gold medal and a world record. But beyond that,
Can you describe that feeling, or is it indescribable?
So
that feeling of standing on that podium and knowing what you've done. Yeah,
the feeling, or the most important feeling for me, really, as I said, so it's our event. Team event, 4 kilometers. It's we're against one other team, but for all intents and purposes, it's a time trial.
Yeah. And
the feeling on that final lap, when there's been several years gone into this moment, the rounds leading up to that point, even the laps preceding this final one. And I managed to catch out of the corner of my eye, it was the Americans that we were against in the final, and I could tell that we were up, and I could tell that we were about to win. And I think connected to this physical sensation of just going so hard that your legs detached from your soul, like from the feeling of effort. And I mean, I'm not religious, or I wouldn't call myself spiritual with these kind of words, but it was just, the only phrase I would use is it's like meeting your maker. It was just beyond any experience I've had since or before then. And really all I can hope is that if Tokyo goes ahead next year, that it's something I'll get one more taste of. But really, I suppose ultimately what you're saying, or I agree with what you're saying, is that it was indescribable.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, we talked about high points, but along the way, we have some setbacks. Can you recall any particular setbacks you had in your career and how that sort of helped shape you to bounce back from?
Yeah, I mean, sort of touched on this slightly when I'm saying about all of us with our sob stories. And what I enjoy most is that when me and my teammates, if we'll reminisce over the games, someone will tell a story and be like, oh, and remember this happened to me just 2 weeks before and it was the end of the world. And I'll be like, oh, I don't remember, because I was also, terrible things are happening to me as well. You wouldn't believe. But one, like a relatively serious one, is so Christmas of 2015. So that was 8 months before the games. I crashed my motorbike and I tore my PCL, which is a ligament in your knee. Not as famous as its footballing friend, the ACL, that's always getting torn on TV, but important nonetheless. You really need your knee to cycle. And I was at a point where the rehab wasn't a case of like, oh, you'll maybe be set back a couple of weeks, or like I'd broken my collarbone, I'd broken my wrist, I'd had lots of bone breaks where I can just get on a turbo trainer. But this was a case where I was told, listen, you can't do anything for 4 weeks, and then after that we're going to start you off with walking, and then after that it was just so slow, the the build to get back in. I missed the World Championships, so that was obviously a really key final event before the Olympic Games. Beyond that, the mental blow of not being, because by the time the World Champs had come around, I was training again, and I was in close. I really thought I was in contention, and I just didn't quite make it. And the realization that I hadn't been taking it seriously, that I hadn't appreciated how much I wanted this Olympic medal, this Olympic dream, until an injury threatened to take it away, is yeah, something I look back on with a bit of shame, really, because there was a change in my behavior after that. I did realize there were more things I could be doing to the nth degree. There were small gains. Kind of British cycling's made a name for itself for touting marginal gains, but I did know that now that someone was trying to grab this out of my hands, I could hold a little bit tighter. And so in some senses, I wonder whether I would have been in the form that I was without this injury, because the scare that it gave me, the fact that someone took me off my bike and said, "You're not allowed to do this anymore," made me double down all that bit harder afterwards.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Great message. Back to you, Mr. Irvin, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we spend a bit of time, well, quite a lot of time during higher PE, national PE, advanced higher PE, talking to our students about different types of training, which obviously Eve would be able to tell you here.
No, she wouldn't. She'd never done any training.
What's your kind of like training regime like? What's a kind of normal day for you?
Yeah, so the glory of being a track cyclist, I get to do a bit of everything. So I'm riding on the track quite a lot. I do most of my riding on the road. I also do quite a few turbo sessions, so sessions on a static bike, and I'm in the gym usually about twice a week. The rule that you'll hear touted around quite a lot with endurance training is a sort of 80-20 divide between general riding and high intensity. It's something I find really frustrating, because I'm always pulling my hair out being like, yeah, so is it like 80-20 of days of the week? Is it done by volume? Is it done by session order? Is it done by, but that's a really rough guideline between how I divide the intensity of my week. So at the moment, part of that 20% will be a track session after we hang up. I'm on the turbo, and like I say, twice a week I'm in the gym, and there's really only one session on the road. We'll just use this week as a typical week. There's only one session I have on the road that has high intensity efforts. Otherwise, I'm doing a lot of general volume and what we call zone 2 riding. So the kind of thing where I'll go out, and for a couple hours I'll try and get my heart rate up to about, well, I mean, it'll be meaningless because depending on your zones, but for me it's about 130 beats. So that's riding just on that side of uncomfortable, but not quite hard. And yeah, it's the kind of thing that's not inspiring, that Nike doesn't make adverts about you just going out riding, not really grimacing, not quite smiling, just pedaling away for, like I say, probably 80% of the time.
Yeah. Excellent.
You managed to find time, sorry, Grant, but away from the training, like, what do you do with your spare time?
Yeah, so UK Sport runs something, a program where you can apply for what's called a Personal Development Award. So athletes on the UK Sport Podium program, we get £750 a year to spend on anything that will develop you. So I know friends, like I've got friends that have done cooking courses. One of my teammates paid to do her nail technician qualifications, so she can get your gels done in that. And then I know other people that, I've got other teammates that put it towards Open University. So it obviously doesn't cover. It's better if you're Scottish, actually, because then you can get some of the funding, I think, from the Scottish government, and some of the funding from this development award, and then I don't know how much you're left paying to do Open Uni. And for me, I spend my extra time writing. So I used to have a regular column in a cycling magazine that I actually put on the back burner as we ran into Tokyo, and then obviously the games got delayed. So I've put that into a sort of a newer project that I don't know why I brought that up, because I was going to be really coy about it. So there's something on the back burner, but that's my main outlet, my main side hustle.
I think we're going to get a big exclusive there, Mr. Irvin. I think big breaking news coming there.
Another question we've got, we spend a bit of time as well talking to our students about goal setting, and we spend a lot of time kind of looking at how important that is. Is that something that you do? And if that is something you do, can you kind of talk us through a past or current goal that you've got?
Yeah, okay. Do you use have you heard of SMART goal setting?
Yeah.
Eve, why don't you tell us what SMART goal setting is?
Oh no, I would genuinely listen. Because I once upon a time would have. You're shaking your head, no?
I forgot.
She's obviously our teacher's obviously not been that great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say that the principles of SMART. So I guess Eve, chip in and tell me if I've misremembered. But when I was taught it, I focused on so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time restricted. And for me, the difference between achievable and realistic is that I read achievable as kind of, is it something I can do by myself? Is this feasible? In contrast to realistic, meaning, is this something I actually have the talent to achieve? So like, it's all very well to say that so I want to go to space. That's really specific. It's very measurable, but it's probably neither achievable nor realistic. So I do. I was really focused on my goal setting when I was a younger athlete, and more so now that I'm slightly older. But I had this big dip in the middle of my career where I was getting a lot of support from the British cycling program. And because it was kind of taken out of my hands, that now I had a coach that was entirely in control of my program, that I had a physiologist that would be kind of testing me every now and then, a nutritionist that would give me advice on what to eat, a strength and conditioning coach that would write my gym program. There was so much of my life outsourced to professionals that I really took my foot off the pedal. And it's something that I feel a lot more confident about now that I've got a handle on it, because I think goals aren't just how you, it's not just something I use building in my cycling career. I think it drives you around just your life in a bigger picture. So, I mean, these days, they are quite grand goals, and I do want to be Olympic champion in the team pursuit, and I do want to be Olympic champion in an event called the Madison, which is a new Olympic event for the track cycling program in Tokyo 2020. And I break it down into kind of what is the goal. So an Olympic Madison medal. And then break it down into what are the physical components of achieving this goal. So like, where do I need my threshold to be? What do I need my peak power to be? What kind of I don't know. Jesus, you think I should know this and be able to rattle off one by one. But yeah, just what are the attributes I expect of the rider that will achieve this goal? And then I go as to how am I going to train that, and how am I going to measure that I'm training it properly? And that's so that's the route. So it goes goal, components of the goal, how to train for those components, how to measure that I am training properly for those components. So you can basically check along the way, rather than finding out in Tokyo, oh goodness, this is all wrong. yeah, and that's how I work it.
Excellent. Yeah. I think we're back to you, Eve.
Yeah. So, have you got any advice for young aspiring cyclists, and what skills and qualities do you think is important for someone to have to become successful?
Yeah, my biggest advice for a young aspiring cyclist is to join a club. I sort of gave a nod to that when I said about all of the help that I received, and it is when you embed yourself in a community that you realize there's probably people that you want to help, and there's people that want to help you, and this kind of symbiotic pleasure that we all get from it improves all of us. It's something that still applies to my career now, being in a team sport, and kind of the way that we all help each other excel and evolve as riders. And I think just being part of a club is so important for that. So important to kind of also realize quicker what you're good at and what you enjoy, because when you're with other people, they'll probably push you into things that make you uncomfortable, and you might realize, like, oh, you know, now that I've tried that, it's actually really good. Or now I've tried that, yeah, it's horrible. You know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's my biggest. What was the second part to your question? Sorry.
What skills or qualities do you think is important if someone wants to become successful?
Okay, yeah. Skills and qualities are important. Yeah, I think it is a skill to be able to recognize your strengths, because if you can recognize your strengths, you can know how to harness them better, and just how to be a better cyclist, and really beyond that, how to be a better sports person, probably in any other region. And I guess with that is probably acknowledging your weaknesses, and if you know what your strengths are, you can use them to help improve your weaknesses, you know. So like for me, I mentioned that a lot of my training is going out and doing this volume, this zone 2 work, we'll call it, and that's a weakness for me. I don't enjoy it, and I tend to go too easy, but I know that if I call up one of my teammates, if I just say to a friend, do you want to meet for one of these rides, that they'll push me. And so being able to kind of recognize that and use it is really useful.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah.
Back to me, is it, the finisher?
Yeah.
This is where we find out the true Katie Archibald. Katie, we would like you to choose any 5 dinner guests, and who would they be, and most importantly, why? I
cannot believe we've managed that. They were Maz sent me through the questions you were thinking, and I sort of skim read. I saw there's a massive A4 piece of paper, and I was like, there's no way we're getting through those. I'm not right, okay. And I saw that one at the bottom, and I was like, I'm not even going to think about it. There's no way we're getting to that. Okay, sorry. So my 5 dinner party guests. Yeah. Right. So I've been saying this one for years, and it feels a bit unoriginal, but I'd invite Caitlin Moran. Even as a teenager, I loved reading what she wrote. It was probably her that made feminism accessible for me as a youngster, and I just think she's hilarious and would make a good dinner party. I'd have David Mitchell. I've always been a David Mitchell fan. I saw him. I went to a gig at the Fringe once that he was also attending. It was a Sarah Millican gig, and he was in the audience. And I took a photo of him from afar. And then only a couple months later, I listened to an interview with him where he's saying about how weird it is when people don't just ask for a picture. You know, when they just. And I'm like, oh God, should I delete that? What if somebody finds this picture from like 20 meters away that I've taken a day of it? But I'd have him over. I'm a big Mitchell and Webb fan. I think I would have, let me think.
You must have somebody for the cycling world, surely.
No, but that's, yeah, do you know, someone from the cycling world. I get to have them all the time. I'm staying at...
Have you ever had dinner with Chris Hoy?
I've gone on a night out with Chris Hoy, had that.
What's he like? Is he a good chat?
Oh, do you know what? Chris Hoy is such, like, you know, he's a nation's hero. He actually is. Like, there's this joke that you don't want to get to know somebody that's put on a pedestal. Yeah. And he's just so kind, and he's so thoughtful, and he's so considered, and like, I never had an overlap. He retired in 2013, I think, and I got on the program just a little bit after that, and so I was never on the team at the same time as him. But obviously, loads of my teammates were, and they kind of tell these stories as though he's this big father figure for the team, and kind of just a leader, like a real leader. And in sport, it's a really interesting one because so often authority and ability get really mixed up. So you look up to the people that are winning gold medals, not necessarily the people that are either compassionate or like I say, the people that make good leaders. And Chris Hoy was both. You know, he's Britain's most successful Olympian, joint with Jason Kenny, that does also have all those qualities. And that's what I really look up to in Chris Hoy, and that's what I aspire to. You know, that's what I would love to one day be like, to be successful, and also someone in that building that people respect, I suppose. So you know what? We'll have Chris Hoy. I'll have Chris Hoy. You can come. I'll do more. I will take. To be honest, it feels really unoriginal because she must be at so many people's dinner parties, but I wouldn't mind having Serena Williams.
She's been on a few, she's had a few on the podcast.
No, I've changed my mind. Strike that part. Do you edit these? Edit that part out. I'll have Billie Jean King.
All right.
Yeah. So I won't go into the details. I talk too much, but there's a something called the UCI Track Cycling World League is starting next winter. They want it to be, I don't know if the organizer have been watching The Last Dance or something, but the model is aspiring to be something like the NBA. But basically it's a chance for track cycling to hit this commercial scene. So to speak to someone like Billie Jean King and all the work that she did with taking the women's tour. Oh Jesus, that's embarrassing. I don't even know what it's called. The women's pro tennis tour. What is that called? Do you know what that's called?
The LT, not the LT? No.
Sorry, I've put us all in a tricky situation. It doesn't matter, but I guess we all know what
WTA. I'm sure it's the WTA.
WTA, okay, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and to hear her advice on that and how she kind of broke those paradigms would be pretty cool. And then to finish, I will take. I guess let's have Michael Jordan then. If we're saying someone that had the system all set up and excelled in it. Someone had to set the system up themselves. It'd be interesting to hear them talk about their contrasts.
Absolutely.
He's been another favourite for the dinner guest question, Miss McHugh, isn't he? Michael Jordan.
What a difference a documentary makes, mate. Like, mate, a documentary.
That's true. I mean, we've already seen the documentary. Maybe I don't need him round to dinner. Yeah, I need to think about someone that's not had a Netflix documentary, and I'll get them.
Okay, Katie, a major thank you today for joining us. Been excellent having you on.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me. I'm sorry if I babbled on at any point.
No, we'll be watching Tokyo 2020, or will it be Tokyo 2021, we'll call it, with a keen interest. So just from Bishop Briggs Academy, the very best of luck. We'll be cheering you on.
Brilliant. Well, thank you.
And also, big thanks to Eve McFadden.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think we've got a case for Eve being a permanent fixture now. I think Mr. Johnson's coats and a sugary peg, Mr. McHugh.
She wasn't too good at the old smarter goals, was she? So I'm not too sure.
No. I need to give her a second chance.
Brilliant.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us, guys, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well done. Take care. See you later.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
How's that leave?
Bottom right, I think. Hold on,